The following is a Spirit Street production.
Kansas football is off and running, people. Lance Leipold has basically turned this thing around overnight. The transfer portal, in their case, has worked absolute wonders. Not only is he getting guys, he's getting guys in. He's also getting people to stay. Kansas football has something going on, and they are going to be a big player in the outcome of the Big 12 conference this football season. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. This is your man, Brien Hanley. Today we got Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for 24/7. Michael, how is it going today?
Doing well. I'm doing well. It's kind of the weird part of the offseason now where it's a little slower. Basketball recruiting slowed down a little bit. Football recruiting is heating up. It's kind of that weird spot before the busy June period hits. So I'm enjoying it. Nice weather outside. I can't complain.
Absolutely. I was just telling you off air, I had a little run-in with my landscaper guy. I'm like, gee, Christmas. So it's that time of year. So we'll get it figured out. So, but, let's take a look at Kansas football. I know a lot of people that don't follow the Big 12 are going to think, oh, Kansas, what are you talking about? Kansas has an opportunity to win the Big 12 this year. We've seen them a couple times. Maybe they're not as good. They won a couple games, blah, blah, blah. But how is Kansas going to win the Big 12? And I guess that's the question that I'm going to pose to you is, what are people not seeing that are not paying attention to Kansas football on a regular basis? What do they need to be paying attention to?
Well, obviously, I think the offense is going to be the talking point because that's what has been so good for KU over really the last 2 years that have seen the program really turn around. And obviously, the health of Jalen Daniels is going to be paramount to what KU can do offensively. And I think it's been a really interesting offseason because you think about it for KU, they return a good amount of production, over half from last season, but that doesn't really factor in Jalen Daniels being back because he barely played last year. But there's been some changes on the coaching staff where Andy Koldenecki's now at Penn State. Jeff Grimes came from Baylor and is now going to run the offense. So KU's got this situation where they return so much on offense, right? You look at the skill position players, you look at quarterback, and there's so many guys that are very familiar with the offense at KU, but there's someone new that's leading it. Where if this was any other offseason where coaching staff continuity was kept, I think you'd feel like an A+ level about this offense, where I kind of feel like A-, B+, where I kind of want to see what this looks like with Jeff Grimes leading the offense because it will be different. But I think that's going to be the talking point, as we get into talking season here in the summer about KU. It's going to be, what can the offense do with Jalen Daniels healthy? And can that be enough to take KU to a Big 12 title? The schedule is pretty favorable for KU. Yeah. Obviously, there's a tough game at K-State on the road, but look, there aren't too many games you look at on the schedule and say, ooh, that's a game KU probably is going to lose. There really aren't many. And so it can lead you to talk yourself into a lot of games, and you can subsequently talk yourself out of games too. But I think the offense is really going to be the key for KU this year.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned it a couple times, Jalen Daniels' health. And it's been a problem over the last 2 seasons. Obviously, you're never blaming a player for not being healthy. What is KU doing to try to keep him healthy? Number one, to get him healthy. And number two, what are they going to do and what have they been doing to try to keep him healthy so that he can play every game this season?
For sure. Well, and it's so weird because it's kind of 2 maybe freakish accidents that have resulted in him missing so much time, right? Mm-hmm. He gets tackled from behind against TCU, lands on his shoulder wrong, separates it. And then last year in preseason camp, he just tweaks his back. And that's exactly what, the type of injury that can just linger. And it did linger and it ended his season. So, KU's take a very measured approach with him this offseason, where if you look at the start of spring practice, right, Jalen did not do a bunch, right? We're at practice every day, get to see about 25 to 35 minutes of it. Jalen wasn't doing a lot. There was some times where he's standing off to the side while other guys are throwing. But then by the end of spring practice, you show up to practice and Jalen's doing everything. It's much more a rare occurrence when you're looking and seeing that Jalen wasn't doing a specific drill, whether it be kind of twisting and torquing his back to throw, he was doing all that stuff. So I think KU really did take a measured approach where if you just showed up to one practice and you showed up to the first practice, you'd be pretty scared about what that meant for the rest of spring ball. But then you look at the progression over the course of that month where he goes out in the spring showcase and does get 11 on 11 reps, which he didn't get a bunch of during spring. And he makes a great throw to Quentin Skinner and leads a touchdown drive, if you want to call it that, but just looked like himself. And so that's really encouraging going into the summer. And now it's just about kind of managing his workload. And I'm sure that's going to be a topic of conversation throughout preseason camp. Like, I know Lance Leipold's going to hate answering questions about it, but the questions have to be asked about, hey, what is Jalen doing? What are your goals for him? And so KU has taken a very deliberate approach with him here on May 14th. It seems like it's paying off. And obviously, I think the goal that Leipold stated at the beginning of spring was getting him ready for late August, and then making him be able to be ready to play September, October, November, and possibly into December.
Gotcha. Yeah. KU, look, they were able to function well, I should say, without him last year. Yeah. But with him, Michael, I just think they're a totally different team on offense. And that doesn't take away from what they actually were, because I think they were still very productive, and we saw that. But with him, I just kind of think that kind of puts them, and a lot of people may laugh at this, I think it might put them in the top 10 or 15 offense in the country with him at the helm. And I don't think that's, to me, and from what I see, and I watch Big 12 every week, I don't think that's out of the question. I think it's something that needs to be said. I think more people around the country have to understand what Kansas has on offense and what they're able to do with him as the quarterback.
Yeah, all I have to do is go back, and I think the Illinois game, man, that was probably one of the best games I've seen Jalen play outside of the Liberty Bowl. But just the athletic ability that he showed, that I didn't think, I thought he really improved that from the 2022 season to the 2023 season, where it seemed like just mobility-wise, he was moving around really well against Illinois. And that's with him missing preseason camp because of the back injury. And so I thought he looked really good in that Illinois game. And you're right. This is an offense that has the ability to put up top 25 numbers. And it has through different parts of the last 2 years when Jalen has been healthy. And it's those times when he has not been healthy, when the consistency of the offense tended to fluctuate with Jason Bean, where there are some really great games and really good moments. But I think every game there was a Jason Bean moment where you're hit with your head in your hands, like, oh, what did you just do? What are you thinking? And so that consistency, I think, that Jalen brings, where an underrated part of this is his touchdown interception ratio. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe I was looking earlier this spring, and it's like 5-1 over the last 2 years when he's actually been healthy. So, I mean, it's pretty insane to think about in terms of taking care of the ball, and that allows your offense to be efficient. If you're not turning the ball over, you've got a really good chance to go and score points with this offense. So, obviously Jalen being healthy really is the key. And I think if he is healthy and does play 13 plus games, it's a team that can go on and achieve the feats that they are kind of setting for themselves as goals this season.
Absolutely. Mentioned earlier about the schedule. I'm just going to take a look at it here. I'm looking at it, and, obviously you got the 3 non-conference games, Lindenwood, Illinois, and UNLV. Even though the game in Illinois is on the road, I don't think there's anything that KU should be afraid of. Obviously, it's a Big Ten opponent. It's on the road, but KU's better than Illinois. Let's just say that. Yeah. Then they go to West Virginia. West Virginia game could be tricky just because, number one, it's at West Virginia, and West Virginia is better. Now, we're going to see if West Virginia, Michael, if they are actually as good as what they came out to be last year. We're going to find out, because I think the schedule helped them last year, West Virginia. And, it was kind of Neil Brown was on his last leg. So we're going to find out early how good West Virginia is. But I don't think that's a game can be tricky. But I don't think KU should necessarily be, fans should be worried necessarily. I think that's a game they can go there and handle. And then, as you mentioned, TCU, Arizona State. I mean, Iowa State, but the game's at home. BYU will be tricky. Colorado, we'll see about them. And it's just a schedule. And you mentioned the K-State game. We'll just leave that one out. The schedule works, in my opinion. It works. So I would assume that the expectations for fans, now granted, sometimes you want to keep them low, but I think the expectations that KU fans are thinking, you know what, this is our opportunity to go win 10 games this year, at least.
Totally. And I think you look at, I don't know. I tend to pump the brakes on this stuff just because I've caught myself sometimes getting out ahead of myself. But I literally think you can look at the schedule and say Kansas will start 7-0. Yeah, it's very simple, because you're right. Like Illinois, okay, it's on the road, but they don't really have the skill position players
No.
to really worry KU.
Nope.
KU was better than them in the trenches in that game last year. And obviously, I think the trenches are a big area for KU fans to watch in the first couple weeks. But you're right about West Virginia. The schedule favored them last year.
Yeah.
I'm not too convinced. And look, the last time KU played at West Virginia, they won. And so it's a place where this team and this core knows how to win, and they've done it. So there's not a big barrier that they have to get over there. And then you're looking at going on the road to play Arizona State. Jaden Rashada was going to be their quarterback, and then he transferred.
Right.
Obviously, I know they've gotten some good skill position players through the portal, and Kenny Dillingham is doing a good job of building that roster. But you're still talking about year 2 and in a new conference. I think that's a game KU should win. Then you return home, play TCU. Again, that's a team that has recruited the portal well, but it didn't really work out last year after their national title run to the championship game. And then it's the bye week, and then you play Houston. Like, you just look at the way it plays out, and you feel pretty good about how you look at the schedule and just the momentum that can build throughout the course of the season. And then it gets to the K-State game. I think that's really the big litmus test game. If KU does win that, they will probably play in the Big 12 title game. Absolutely. I think that's probably what that game comes down to. And it wouldn't shock me if KU and K-State play in the Big 12 title game this fall. So you just look at the schedule. There aren't games where you're saying, that's probably a loss, like it was when Texas and Oklahoma were on the roster or on the schedule, and even in Oklahoma State, right? That's a team that KU traditionally has had some struggles with. So I just look at the schedule, and it's favorable, and it kind of aligns with, hey, you've got a really old team, a team that's played together, a team that can score a bunch of points. We'll see about the defense, but it kind of fits, right? The timelines here work out where it's a team that's at the right point, gets the right type of schedule that can maybe go on a run. And obviously, I think health is really going to be the biggest key and the thing that probably is a determining factor for how far this team can go.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break here. On the other side of this, we're going to talk a little bit about what the stadium looks like and how that's going on. And I promise we're not going to get any back and forth. We're just asking how it's going.
We need to get Fitz on
what
here.
It's going to look like. So we will have one word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial Partners, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Brien Hanley with Michael Swain, who covers KU 24/7 Sports. So, Michael, so we talked a little bit about the season and the expectations. Let's talk about some of the infrastructure, I guess technically infrastructure, the stadium.
Yeah.
So, KU is obviously rebuilding the stadium, as most people know, and a lot of their games are going to be played at Arrowhead Stadium. I think they're going to play one. I can't remember. I don't really know what the name of it is. It where they're playing at the Children's Mercy. Yes, yeah. Children's Mercy. So my question is, when they play those games at Arrowhead, because I know Iowa State fans, you know how they travel, and they are going to be all over a game that's in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Is the allotment, or have they even said, is the allotment going to be more filtered towards KU? Is it going to be an even allotment? Whoever wants to buy? Are they going to cap it at a certain number of tickets that they're going to sell? How are they doing those games that are going to be at Arrowhead this year, or have they even said?
Yeah, so if you look at the for the portal, right, to buy the season tickets, there is upper deck availability. That was something I was interested to see. Would they allow second level seating? Right? Because you get, if you're a baseball fan, like, the photos of the Oakland A's stadium, right, where it just looks kind of empty in the top level. They do have that open. And so people can buy tickets for some of those spots. I am interested to see what the Iowa State crowd is like, right? That you're talking 3 hours? Yeah. 3.5 hours from Ames or Des Moines, not too hard of a drive to make it a day trip. No. That for me is the biggest crowd I'm interested to see, just what the split looks like. But, it was very competitive, right? For the Children's Mercy Park tickets for the 2 non-con games, that's going to be a really fun atmosphere. I'm really fired up for that, actually, because it's not often you think you get to watch a college football game at a 20,000 seat stadium that is very intimate and on top. I think that's going to be really cool to see. But as for Arrowhead, KU, I think, is still working on some stuff, right? They're still working on how to get students there for the game.
Right.
Parking is something that is going to be, I think some people maybe were a little upset at the prices, but then you look at the prices for Chiefs games and other professional events, it's not really a whole lot different than that. And I think it's probably a credit to KU that it's not astronomically more, that's not upcharged versus
Correct.
what people pay for the Chiefs parking. So I think the crowds will be really interesting to see for that Iowa State game. But I think as long as KU continues to win, I think, Arrowhead will be very, very full. I don't know about sellouts. I think that's a challenge, right? You're talking about NFL stadium. That's a lot of people.
Right.
But I think you're going to see some really strong crowds there for KU games.
Yeah, I do too. I think it will be a fun atmosphere. Number one, for players. Hey, I get to go play where the Chiefs play, where the world champions are playing football at. Not that they played, Michael, in past years. They may have played, or they might be playing the next day, or they played the previous Sunday. They play there now. That's something for players to just get excited about in itself. But for the fans, for the atmosphere, look, we all know. I mean, if you're around Kansas City, and I don't care what anybody says, the Chiefs, even though I'm not a Chiefs fan, has the best tailgating of any atmosphere in the NFL. And for you to be able to bring that type of atmosphere to college, which that's what everybody always says, it's a college atmosphere. Now you have a college team that's actually going to be playing several games there this year. I just think the atmosphere for fans, I think KU fans have something to look forward to. I think they're going to have a great time. And I'm assuming that they are probably looking forward to that a lot.
Oh, a lot. Like I've got some friends I went to college with that live in the Kansas City area that already have their, tailgate plans, and we're in May. Like people, at least that I talk to, and I know other people who are adults and stuff like that, like, have kids, are going to take their kids to the game and have a fun sort of experience. Because look, a Chiefs game tailgate is a much different atmosphere
absolutely
than a college football tailgate is going to be. I would probably say a little bit less intense.
Right.
And so if you're wanting to take your kid to a football game at Arrowhead and have the full football experience without some of the edginess that maybe can come from a Chiefs game, I think that's going to be a great opportunity. I think you're going to see a lot of people take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And so I think right now, I think KU fans are fired up. And again, if they win and continue to win throughout the course of the season, I think it's going to be a snowball that continues to build as people talk more about it. Hey, we had so much fun at the TCU game. Hey, well, let's go back to the Houston game and invite more people and do this. Like, I think it's a snowball that if KU does have the season people think they can have, I think it's going to be a really, really great atmosphere that builds throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One other question here before I get you out of here. Tell us a little bit as far as the stadium, the building of the stadium now. How are things going? What does it look like? And are they still on target to be able to play in 2025?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, everything from what I've heard is on target. I saw some photos over the weekend, right? KU had their commencement at the stadium. So they halted construction for a little bit, but the mild winter in Kansas really did help things, where there were not a lot of days where they had to sit out and not have construction work going on. A huge steel order came in. You can start to see they've got the cameras, obviously, for KU fans that want to go look. KU Athletics has set up cameras where you can watch the stadium come up. They might need to move the cameras because they're getting to the point now where some of the steel's coming up and it's starting to block one of the cameras on top of the Anderson Family Football Complex.
Okay.
One exciting part that probably wasn't mentioned, I think, on the front end of this is the fact that KU will have its facility back this fall. That at least is the current plan and the current hope, and that is the trajectory things are on right now. Where for spring football, the KU football coaches were at Rock Chalk Park, which is where the track and field facility is.
Right.
And so they had to use that as their offices. Right now, the thought is that, hey, in August, the coaches will be able to move back into their building, and the football players will be able to go back in their brand new locker room that they got this time last year. And the new weight room that they got is going to be accessible to them. So even if the games on Saturday are not going to feel like at home, day to day and around the facility, like it's going to feel new because it's new stuff, but it's still going to feel like home for them. I think that's a really important thing, where these guys aren't going to have to use the away visitors locker room on the east side of the stadium all season like they did at football. So I think that's an added benefit. And obviously it's construction, man. Like we'll see it, timelines change with some of this stuff, but
absolutely,
what I've been hearing, that's what KU is expecting to do, is to have the facility available for the football team this fall. And that's pretty big.
Good. Well, the one thing about it is whether you're a KU fan or not, you feel good about KU actually putting the investment of getting a new stadium. They needed a new stadium for a long time, and I'm glad that they put that investment in there and decided, you know what, enough's enough. Let's upgrade this thing and let's be a part of what college football is, and not just facility wise, because I think they've kind of taken, like you mentioned about the complex and the weight room. You got to have that, but the stadium means a lot, and the stadium is the figure piece of every football program. It just is. You can have the nicest complex and the nicest weight room, but when your stadium isn't what it is, because number one, that's the biggest. When it isn't up to snuff, sometimes the program can feel a little down or not. I shouldn't say as valuable, but it just doesn't seem as prestigious as maybe other places. And I'm glad KU has decided, Michael, that they have taken this upon themselves and said, nope, we're putting the investment in. It's time for us to step up to the plate because we are a big-time program, and we can be a big-time program. Now we just got to show that we are.
Exactly. And I think it's, the amount of times I've seen the stadium renderings and stuff used on recruiting graphics,
right?
Like, I've lost track of it because it's an exciting thing, right? People want to play in a nice stadium. And you're right. Yeah. It is something different when day to day, yes, it's great for the players, but on those days that matter the most, right? The days that the games are played, you want to have a nice stadium. And I think for KU, it's going to be a long time coming, right? The restrooms will work. The concession stands will probably be a lot more efficient than I think they were 2 years ago in 2022 when the boom really did start with this team and this program. Right. So it is exciting, and obviously it's kind of cool to drive by and see it all coming up. So everything right now seems to be on track.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Michael. We appreciate you giving us your time today. As always, I know that when you have the time, you'll be back, and we will bring you back. Hopefully the summer doesn't get too crazy in June, and we can just get to football season as soon as possible and maybe relax a little bit. So appreciate you giving us your time today.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We will be right back, everybody, to finish the show. Just one final word from our sponsor with Synergy Financial.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right. Well, look, KU has it going as far as college football is concerned. I know that the country looks at KU as a basketball school, and it is. But don't discount what Lance Leipold has been able to put together at Kansas. It's not just hyperbole. It's not just rumors or just talk out there that they are going to compete for the Big 12 title this year in football. That's going to happen. With a healthy roster, number one, I'm not sure Kansas's roster isn't as good as everybody else's in the conference. But if they're healthy, I'm just telling you right now, look out, because Kansas can make some noise. And what Michael said, I wouldn't be surprised if they are not battling it out in the Big 12 title game if things go their way. So I appreciate everybody joining us. We will be back, as always, tomorrow to do this better. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff to help us out. We appreciate the support. We're still growing. We're almost to the 1,000 subscribers, that big goal that we need to be at. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Otherwise, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.